up, board gamers? It's your boy, name's right here in my title. Anyway, holiday's over, but it's time to open up gifts because I just got a new one. So, let's get to it.
Oh, hello there. I didn't expect the transmission to be sent today. Well, I am hard at work on the Ultra Chats for the next video. While I have you here though, allow me to wish you a happy holiday. But shh, keep that on the down low. Rem doesn't like, well, specifically he doesn't like Christmas. I'm not quite sure why.
I behaved all here to get my Game Station 5, and I didn't get it.
So?
I blew the fat man up.
Oh well, I'm sure it's perfectly reasonable and normal. Anyway, unfortunately, I don't have anything to share with you today, but... oh! To the Acolyte. Christmas is the season to help those in need. Find it in your heart to help the Elf King. Sign a friend in need and... oh, please don't tell Rem. Oh, a box. I wonder what's inside. Ooh, whatever happened to you? Poor little guy. I wonder.
I got it.
And voila! Santa is reborn and rebuilt, with a few modifications, a standard issue heavy machine gun from a space chat, as well as an impractical robotic harpoon gun for catching all those cookies. And here we have Santa Claus all set up and ready to be primed. Now for our primer today, we'll be using a pink primer. This will be useful for those reds and his skin tones as we get to him. Our under layer of a purple ink, and then we're going to do a highlight, a zenithal highlight, with this magenta. I will be applying the pink primer with an airbrush, though if you have a brush, you should be able to do the same thing with that. Now be sure to cover Santa in his entirety with this pink primer. And once we apply the pink primer like this, we will be moving on to applying the purple undercoat to act as our shadows or guidelines for our shadows when we get to painting Santa Claus. Between each color change, we're going to want to clean our airbrush to ensure we're not contaminating our lighter colors with our darker colors and vice versa. I will now go ahead and add the purple ink into the airbrush using Flow Improver as a diluter for the ink. I will spray the ink from below Santa to give the illusion of shadows. With the purple ink applied, you can kind of see where we have some shadows going on with Santa here. And next what I'm going to do is get our lighter magenta on top to act as the highlight for Santa. As the magenta is to give a highlight to Santa, I will be applying the paint from up top, where typically light would be coming from. Now as you can see, I've applied the magenta to the model, but we really don't have that strong of a highlight as I was expecting. So we will be mixing into our existing magenta mix this white ink. As I did previously with the magenta by itself, I will be applying this white and magenta ink concoction from above, going to the parts of Santa that I believe should be highlighted. With our concoction applied, we can now clearly see what are going to be the highlights and what are going to be the shadows when we start to apply our base paints to the model. which, speaking of base paints, we will begin to apply this nice maroon color to the pants, hat, and coat for Santa. I then proceed to get the wet palette set up that will be used throughout the process of painting Santa Claus. With the palette now ready, I will proceed to wipe off any excess water from the paper itself and shake our paint before putting it onto the palette. I will now proceed to apply our first base layer onto Santa's coat, followed by his hat, his pants, and any other objects on Santa that, well, will be red. Do not be alarmed or distressed if you find that your first layer is a tad patchy, as we will be doing this multiple times until we get to a nice solid maroon, though not too solid to where we cover our zenithal highlighting and our shadows. And here I have Santa in his traditional red outfit, well, at least the base layers for it. It was also at this point I thought I'd be a little bit more festive, and I began to apply our maroon base to the gun as well. With Santa's gun now based in that maroon, I'll proceed to work on his arm, and I thought to keep things festive we'll make it green, so we'll be using a base layer of this dark green and apply that to our palette. I'll begin to apply the dark green onto the arm, leaving some spots untouched as I plan to go back at those with a black paint to prep for our metallic colors we'll be adding later on. And here we have our dark green base layer applied to the arm. There were a couple of grenades I forgot back here, so I applied that dark green base there as well. And here we have our green base layers applied to the arm as well as the grenades. From here I will proceed to add our black base layers to the various parts of Santa, from his belt to his weaponry as well as his boots and his sunglasses. For the black base layer, I will be using Castle's Bandana Black, and proceed to add that to our palette. I will be applying our black base layer first onto Santa's boots. With the boots done, I will now apply the black to the belt. I will also apply the black base paint onto various parts of the weapons and robotic arm that we will be applying with the metallic paint later on. And here we have our initial black layers applied to Santa Claus. There were a couple of spots I forgot to apply our black base layer onto, so I'll be going to those and carefully paint those sections black. With the black base paint applied, we're going to go ahead and work on the trim of the coat and the hat. For these sections, we're going to be starting off with a dark tan color that we'll then apply white on top of later on. I'll carefully apply the dark tan to the trim of Santa's coat and hat. knowing that later on I'll be going back at this with a white paint to give the outfit that traditional red and white that we expect with Santa Claus. On this part, there was no trim to paint on for Santa's arm here, so what I did was I added some thin lines to try to give the illusion later on that perhaps this part of his coat was torn off. And here you can see I now had the trim of Santa's coat in hand completed with our dark tan base layer, and now I'll be working on the beard as well as the scroll with a lighter tan color here. I will then proceed to go ahead and use the same tan on Santa's list here, being careful to stay within the lines. Though, if I accidentally hit his coat with the tan, I can always go back at it with our maroon base layer. I've now applied this tan onto Santa's beard, his lips, and this little cloth piece I found. It's at this point I got inspired to make the gun more festive by perhaps making it look like a candy cane. So I pulled out this off-white cream paint and applied that to my palette, and carefully began painting a line along this part of the weapon. Now I'm going to carefully make a spiral effect going line by line down the gun. And with that, we are now done with adding our various off-white base layers, as well as my last-minute candy cane gun. And we'll proceed to work on our base layer for the skin tones. I'll be using this light yellow-brown color to act as the base layer for Santa's skin tone, applying that to the palette and then carefully onto his arm. With one arm done, I'll proceed to paint the other arm as well as the face, being very careful not to get this yellow-brown on his beard. With the skin tone base layer applied, I'll be adding a brown base layer to the butt of his gun as well as his lone leather glove. For this, I'll be using a dark brown as our base layer and apply that to the palette. Here I will just carefully apply this dark brown onto the butt of the gun as well as the leather glove, being careful not to get any brown on the other parts of Santa. With those out of the way, we can begin to look at adding the metallic paints to the harpoon as well as the gun bits here. For these bits of the gun, I'll be using this dark copper color as our base layer. This will help bring out that gold I apply later on beautifully. I will carefully apply this dark copper color onto the bits of the gun. With our base layers applied to the bits of Santa's gun, I will proceed to work on his robotic arm, starting with the harpoon here. I'll be using this dark metallic color as our base layer for the harpoon, as well as the other silver bits of his arm. I'll carefully apply this metallic paint onto the harpoon arm, just taking it nice and slow and working my way down the harpoon and going down to the various cabling and other metallic knickknacks of the arm. And here we have all our metallic base layers on Santa's arm and Santa's gun. Though I did go back and I did paint one grenade red just to keep things festive. Speaking of red, I'll use this bright red to help bring out Santa's outfit from his hat to his coat, even to the candy cane gun. applying it carefully onto the parts we have already base layered with our initial maroon color. With the red applied, Santa is looking closer to his jolly old self. We're now going to go back to that off-white trim and start adding in some brighter whites to help make it pop. For this, I'll be using this platinum white, adding that to the palette and mixing it with the various off-white colors we used throughout the process of painting the beard, the trim of the coat, as well as the weapon. I'll apply this brighter off-white onto the trim of Santa's outfit, going nice and slow along the way to ensure that I don't get this color on the rest of the outfit. Here you should see how that brighter off-white color helps makes the trim pop up more than it did previously. I will now go ahead and mix a little bit of that platinum white with that off-white I had used previously for Santa's beard and carefully apply it onto his mustache and work my way down the rest of his beard. Here you should be able to see that Santa's beard is looking sharp with that brighter white applied, and I'll start to work on the candy cane gun, mixing that platinum white with the initial off-white base paint I used for the candy cane gun. And carefully I will apply this color onto that initial base layer on the candy cane gun, just going slow and being careful not to get anything on the red. Though if I do, I can always go back with the red and just paint over it carefully. And here we have that brighter white applied to the candy cane gun. Next, I will proceed to brighten up Santa's list by mixing the platinum white with the off-white we had used initially to paint the list. With that, the whites of Santa's outfit are looking, well, more white. And next we're going to work on those greens. I'll be using this yellow-green paint to bring out the green of the robotic arm, the vest, the knee pads, as well as the grenades. Going carefully on the robotic arm, just adding layer by layer. With the yellow-green added, hopefully you see how it just makes the robotic arm, the vest, and the knee pad just pop a little bit more on Santa. I now want to bling out the metallic bits we did for both Santa's gun as well as his harpoon arm. I will proceed with the gun by going over that dark copper with this gold. Carefully I applied the gold to the bits of Santa's gun, and by the end of this I believe that this gold really ties the whole weapon together. I went ahead and also added the gold to the back of Santa's boots where he had a couple of buckles there, as well as to the buckle of his belt in front. With the gold applied to Santa's gun, I'm going to go ahead and spruce up that robotic arm and harpoon of his. For this, I'll be using a bright silver color to help bring out the harpoon as well as the other metallic bits on his robotic arm. I'll be applying this brighter metallic paint onto the darker metallics we've already applied to Santa. This will help ensure that his arm really pops and stands out. I also went back to the gold and added just a little bit of this silver to help make the gold pop more as well on his gun. And hopefully from here you can see how that silver just really makes the gold as well as the other metallics just pop out more. I'm now going to go ahead and start working on our skin tones, especially as traditionally Santa should have a cherry nose. To help with the blush, I'll be using this blush-like color and apply that to Santa's face. And I will be using this lighter tan color to help bring out and highlight the rest of the skin tone. Applying both paints to the palette, I'm going to carefully begin with our lighter tan and apply that on the muscles with a bulge. I'll be putting this lighter tan color on all the spots where light would be hitting Santa's muscles as well as his facial features. I'll be adding the blush color between his muscles to help make him look more swole as though he's just constantly working out. I find when it comes to painting someone's skin, it's going to take a lot of trial and error back and forth as we apply highlights and then add more shadows into it, as you might find that maybe you made one muscle brighter than the other, or maybe you made his muscles too dark. Don't be afraid to keep going back at this until you get that result that you want. In this case, I spent quite a long time on Santa's muscles, as I found I would make them look lighter when they should have looked darker, and then make them too dark when they should have looked lighter. It's about here where I was satisfied where I was going with Santa's skin tone. However, I did think that it could use a little bit more definition. So I decided to go back between the muscles and apply a lighter purple ink between them to help make them bulge up and stand out more so. Adding the pink ink to the palette, I mixed a little bit with our previous skin tone and watered it down and carefully applied it between the bulges of Santa's muscles. While applying the purple wash, there were some times where I needed to go back and add some highlights to the muscles, so I would mix a little bit of the platinum white with the skin tone, and carefully apply it back to return that highlight. With the highlights and the shadows applied to Santa's skin, I was at a pretty good spot here. However, I did notice that I did miss a spot on the boots, which I did go back and apply a little bit of a gray paint over it just to give a little bit of a highlight. With the purple wash added to Santa's skin, I figured that I'd go back to his red suit and use the purple wash to help define the creases and crevices of his outfit. So carefully, I added the purple wash to the recesses of these folds, being careful not to add too much purple to where the outfit looked purple instead of red. To help bring out the butt of Santa's gun as well as his lone leather glove, I pulled out a lighter brown and put that on my palette. I also put a little bit more of that previous dark brown I used for the base layer, mixing the two to get a mid-tone, and carefully applied this paint to the butt of the gun as well as the glove. Here you can see how that mid-tone really does help bring out Santa's glove as well as the butt of his gun. With those off my list, all that remained is washing Santa's list. To apply the weathering, I'll be using my Zesty Brown wash, recipe courtesy of Early Fall Modeling, and apply the wash liberally on this list. With the wash applied, we've now completed weathering Santa's list. With that wash applied, I felt that perhaps Santa's robotic arm could use a wash of its own, specifically the metallic bits here and there. For the metallic bits of the robotic arm, I'll be applying Castle's Lun Leo to the recesses of the metallic bits on the arm. And with the Lun Leo wash applied, I think the metallics on Santa's arms really stand out now. Next, I want to go ahead and paint Santa's sunglasses. For this, I'll be using Dork Turbo's Metallic 4D Blue. Applying that to the palette, I carefully apply this paint onto the glasses. Just taking it very carefully, very slow as to not get any paint on the rest of his facial features. And with those nail biting 2 minutes out of the way for me, there was one item I had forgotten all about that needed to be painted. The red stripes of this candy cane right there. To achieve this, I pulled out a smaller size 2 brush with a finer point to make it easier for me to apply the red stripes onto the candy cane without getting any other reds on the rest of his face or his beard. I kept my hands as steady as I could and painted very slowly and carefully until I was able to get the candy cane looking like this. And with that, I actually think Santa's complete. So with that, let me present to you Santa Claus! And there we have Santa Claus. Though I suppose we could do some basing if we wanted to, but well, I don't want Ren to find out.
How are the Ultra Smurfs coming?
Ultra Smurfs, yes, of course. I'm doing just oh, they're coming along well. I'm just taking a break right now is all.
Acolyte, what are you wearing on your head?
It's a Santa hat.
Well, take it off! I have no love for this Christmas holiday.
Oh yes, of course. I'm sorry, I've forgotten. Now I'll just go back to work on the Ultra Smurfs.
Yes, now get back to work.
Oh, what is this? Oh, whoever left you here?
Ho ho ho! Rem, are you listening? Sleigh bells ring, and you should be glistening. You better not shout, you better not run, for gone is that jolly old man, rebuilt and reforged with vengeance in my heart. Enjoy this Christmas day, for it will be your last, for Santa is coming to town.